بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Modifications of stems. Objectives. أهداف المحاضرة. To outline the types of stem modifications. To explain each type of the stem modifications. To give examples of each type of stem modifications. The stem or branches of certain plants are modified into various shapes to perform special functions. That means here the stem. Some stems of some plants are going to modify to perform special functions. دائما الساقان وأي أعضاء في النبات هي تتحور لأداء وظائف معينة، وتبعا لذلك فأشكال وتراكيب تتغير تبعا لهذا التحور. So all the time stems or any plant organ, when it modifies, its shape and its structure will be changed according to this modification. Stem modifications are divided into three types: aerial modifications, subaerial modifications, and underground modifications according to the place where this modification will take place. So if the modification occurs in the aerial part of the stem, is going to be called aerial modification. If the modification of the stem occurs on stems that's going to be on the ground, in this case we're going to call it subaerial modifications, like the runners, like all the creepers. When there is a modification on such stems, is going to be called subaerial modification. Underground modifications, when the modification occur in the underground stem. إذن هذه التحورات تنقسم، أو تحورات الساقان تنقسم إلى ثلاثة أقسام: تحورات هوائية تحدث في الساقان الهوائية، وتحورات للساقان شبه الهوائية وهي تحدث في الساقان الزاحفة والساقان الجائرة وما إلى ذلك، وتحورات الساقان تحت أرضية وهي تحدث في الساقان التي تكون تحت الأرض. Aerial modifications of stems. التحورات الهوائية للساقان. Vegetative and floral buds which would normally develop into branches and flowers often undergo extreme degree of modification in certain plants for a definite purpose. That means here any type of bud, whether it's an apical bud, axillary bud, or even an accessory bud, it can be modified for any other shape to perform any other special function, like what we discussed earlier, such the tendrils and here the thorns is another example. So here the modifications of buds are going to be considered as one of the types of the aerial modifications. إذا في هذه الحالة تحورات البراعم هي أيضا تعتبر من التحورات الهوائية للساقان. Sometimes the whole stem or the whole branch may be modified according to the need of the plant. في بعض الأحيان ليست البراعم فقط هي التي تتطور أو تتحور، ولكن كل الساق أو كل الفرع هو يتحور ويؤدي وظيفة معينة. إذا التحورات في الساقان الهوائية تحدث يا إما تحورات كتحورات للبراعم، أو تحدث كنتيجة لكل الساق أو لكل الفرع ويتحول لأداء وظيفة معينة. الجفافية والنباتات الجفافية النباتات الجفافية يطلق عليها xerophytic plants. نباتات الجفافية يطلق عليها xerophytic plants، وهي عبارة عن الزيروفايتس، حيث تكون دائما هناك قلة المياه. فإذا النباتات تتحور من أجل مجابهة قلة المياه، أو دائما تتحور من أجل تقليل فقدان المياه. هنا where the leaves، حيث تكون دائما الأوراق معدومة، أو قد تنمو بصورة ضعيفة، أو قد تسقط في مراحل مبكرة، وفي بعض الأحيان تتطور أو تتحور إلى سباينز أو إلى أشواك صغيرة. كل ذلك من أجل اختزال أو تقليل سطح التبخر أو عملية النفع. The filloculate takes all the functions of the leaves. هنا في هذه الحالة الفيلوكليت، لأن الأوراق تساقطت، فإذا الساق أصبح في هذه الحالة مسؤول عن عملية التمثيل الضوئي بدلا عن الأوراق، وبالتالي تحور لأداء وظيفة التمثيل الضوئي، فأصبح أخضر اللون، وبالتالي أخذ شكل الورقة من حيث التفلطح. So here the filloculate is the stem. It's going to take here the function of the leaves, since the leaves fall off because to reduce the evaporating surface. So here the filloculate or the stem is going to modify. It's going to be green in color. It's going to be flattened to receive the light here, and also to do all the functions of the leaves. In this case here we don't have this transpiration, or this process that's called transpiration, which make the water evaporates all the time. عشان كده يا اخوانا بنلاحظ انه هذا الفيلوكليت هو عبارة عن الساق الذي يتحور من أجل عملية التمثيل الضوئي بدلا عن الأوراق، وهو في هذه الحالة يأخذ كل وظائف الأوراق من حيث التمثيل الضوئي خاصة. وفي هذه الحالة نجد أن عملية النتح أو فقدان الماء قلت بشكل كبير. And because of the strong development of cuticle، وبسبب التطور أو بسبب وجود طبقة سميكة من الكيوتيكل وهي عبارة عن طبقة شمعية، it reduces transpiration. Also, this filloculate is covered with a thick cuticle. The cuticle is a waxy layer. It's a waterproof layer that will keep the water inside the stem. Now, let's have a look. This is the filloculate. This the plants called Opuntia species. Now, as you can see here, this is the stem. As you can see, the shape is flattened, green in color. It's gonna make all the functions of the leaf, and the main one is the photosynthesis. Now have a look here. Those are the deciduous leaves. Deciduous leaves meaning those leaves are gonna fall or will fall off early. Now those leaves not gonna present in maturation. As we can see here, there are no leaves because to reduce the transpiration process. The second type are called subaerial modifications. Now, for the purpose of the vegetative propagation, some of the lower parts of the stem in certain plants grow out into long or short lateral branches. Now, the subaerial stem is a stem that's going to grow in a horizontal direction, running on the ground. We have two types of the subaerial modifications, like the runner and the offset. And the only purpose for such modification is the vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation meaning here the plant is going to be multiply in number vegetatively without any sexual reproduction. The vegetative propagation is one of the types of the asexual reproduction. Now, let's go to the first type, the first subaerial modification. It's called the runner. The runner is a cylinder branch with long internodes, creeping on the ground and rooting at the nodes. the runner arises as an axillary bud and leaps some distance away from the mother plant, then strikes roots and grow into a new plant. Now let's have a look to the diagram directly. Now as you can see, this is the branch, this is the runner. It runs on the ground, that's why we call it runner. بنشوف إن الساق الجاري هي الساق تجري على الأرض. Now from the node we have adventitious roots, and from the same node, because here we have a leaf, we had leaf earlier, and of course we know that we have an auxiliary bud in the axil of such leaf. Now the auxiliary bud will give the branch. The branch is going to be in the vertical direction. Now have a look to this branch in a vertical direction and the roots below. Now, so the whole structure, this branch and the roots below, both of them are going to be considered as a small plant. Now on the second node, also we can observe also this vertical direction branch. It's the aerial branch, and here below we have the roots. So here all these plants are going to be considered as small plants. All of them are coming from the same runner. زي ما شايفين هنا يا اخوانا ان الرنر ايضا ينتج في هذه الحالة الفرع من الاكسيلري باد، وهو يكون في الاتجاه الرأسي، واسفل منه بيكون عندنا الجذور العرضية من العقد. وبالتالي اذا لاحظنا سوف نجد ان هذا التركيب سواء كان الجزء العلوي وهو بيأتي من الاكسيلري باد، والجزء السفلي اللي هو عبارة عن adventitious roots أو الجذور العرضية، هي كلها مع بعض تمثل نبات كامل، لأنه هنا يمثل الشوت سيستم وهنا عندنا الروت سيستم. فإذا يمكن اعتبار ذلك نبات صغير، وأيضا هنا نبات صغير، وأيضا هنا نبات صغير. كل هذه النباتات الصغيرة التي تتكون من aerial shoot رأسي والجذور عرضية للأسفل، يمكن اعتبار هذه النباتات هي نباتات صغيرة كلها تم إنتاجها من نفس الرنر أو من نفس الساق الجارية. فإذا هذا الساق الجارية تحور من أجل وظيفة واحدة، وهي عبارة عن التكاثر الخضري أو vegetative propagation. The second type is the offset. Like the runner, it originates in the axil of the leaf as a short branch. It elongates to some extent only. The apex tears up and produces leaves above and a cluster of roots below. It looks like the runner, but it's shorter than the runner, but it will do the same function. It will produce a new plant, just one plant, at the end of this offset or at the end of this short branch. نفس الرنر هو أيضا عبارة عن فرع يذهب أفقيا، وبيكون دائما ينتج لي فقط نبات واحد، وهو دائما يكون أقصر من الرنر، ولكن نفس السلوك، وهو أيضا ينتج النباتات بطريقة خضرية من غير عملية تكاثر جنسي حقيقي. كما نرى هنا ده نبات أعشاب النيل. هذا هو النبات الأم. This is the mother plant. This is a hydrophyte. Hydrophyte meaning an aquatic plant. Now as you can see here, this is the shoot system, and here we have the root system. This is the modified branch or the offset. Now at the end it's gonna produce leaves above and roots below. So this is the daughter plant. Now we can have many daughter plants from any of these plants, because each one of these is capable to produce an offset, and at the end of the offset we can find a daughter plant. So here we have also vegetative propagation. Underground modifications of stems. Stems of certain plants develop underground and not there permanently for some period, and then giving off aerial shoots annually under favorable conditions. كثير من النباتات أو بعض النباتات لها ساقان تحت أرضية وتظل دائما تحت الأرض بصورة دائمة لبعض الوقت، وثم في الظروف البيئية المناسبة فهي تنتج الأريال شوتس أو السيقان الهوائية لهذه النباتات، ويكون ذلك سنويا. How we can distinguish between the roots and the underground stems؟ كيف يمكن تمييز السيقان التحفظية من الجذور؟ Because both of them are going to be underground. The underground stems are actually stems, so they are going to have all the morphological features of stems, like number one, nodes and internodes. They are provided with nodes and internodes, and since they are provided with nodes, so they definitely should have leaves. The leaves of the underground stems are called scale leaves, and those scale leaves are going to be very small and non-green in color. They are going to be also provided with buds, like the axillary bud and the terminal bud. The terminal bud here of the underground stem is going to give all the time the aerial shoots in the favorite conditions, as we said. The axillary bud is going to give branch of the underground stem. What are the functions of such modifications, the underground stems? Number one, pyrenation. Pyrenation here, meaning that those underground stems are going to be in a dormant conditions, and they're going to give the aerial shoots annually in the favorite conditions. So here the plant's going to be are going to survive year after year after year. Pyrenation يعني التعمير، أي هذه النباتات تظل ولا تموت لأن هناك سيقان تحت أرضية. في الظروف البيئية الملائمة تكون هنالك سيقان تحت أرضية وتكون هنالك سيقان فوق الأرض. أما في الظروف البيئية الغير ملائمة فإن السيقان الهوائية تموت، ولكن السيقان تحت أرضية تظل كامنة إلى أن تأتي الظروف البيئية الملائمة فتعطي السيقان الهوائية مرة أخرى. Store up food materials. والوظيفة الثانية لهذه التحورات أو تحورات السيقان التحت أرضية هي دائما تخزين المواد الغذائية. The third one is vegetative propagation also. So here one of the main functions of the underground stems or the underground modifications of stems is the vegetative propagation, because they are all the time are going to give many aerial shoots each year. So they're going to propagate, they are going to multiply in number by the same underground stem. The types of the underground stems are rhizome, tuber, bulb, and corm. Now this is the first one, the rhizome. Now have a look how we can say that this is a stem, it's underground. Now have a look, it's clear that it's provided with the nodes, and the space between the nodes is going to be internode. Now have a look here, this is the apical bud or the terminal bud of this stem. Now in the favorite condition, this apical bud will turn upwards and it's going to give the aerial shoot in the favorable condition. Now this is an axillary bud, it will give a rhizome, another rhizome or another underground stem. Now it's a thickened underground stem, grows horizontally, ينمو في الاتجاه الأفقي. It's provided with nodes and internodes, scale leaves at the node, and sometimes it's going to be provided with adventitious roots. ودائما يكون مزود بالعقد والسلاميات كما ذكرنا، ويكون فيه leaves اللي هي scale leaves، وأيضا هنالك بيكون في بعض الأحيان عندنا جذور عرضية قد تخرج من السيقان. The second type, the corm. This is a condensed form of rhizome growing in the vertical direction. It's having all the features of the underground stems. Now as you can see here, those are the nodes, and the space between the nodes are the internodes, and here the apical bud is going to give the aerial shoot. Now the difference between the corm and the rhizome, that the corm is growing in the vertical direction, The rhizome, as we said or we viewed earlier, is growing in the horizontal direction. The bulb is the third type of the underground stems. Now, as you can see, let's go. Now, as you can see here, it consists of a shortened or convex stem like this one. Now, this is the stem. This is the underground stem. This short stem. Now, all the scaly leaves are coming from this short stem or convex stem. زي ما شايفين هنا الساقة القصيرة تحت أرضية البصلة، وزي ما شايفين أن الأوراق الفرشوتية أو السكيل ليفز تنمو من هذا الساق القرصي القصير. و from the base of the stem we have fibrous roots، ومن قاعدة الساق هنا هذا الساق القصير عندنا fibrous roots وجذور ليفية. وما دام إن هي جذور ليفية ذلك يعني أنه هو عبارة عن نبات ذات فلقة واحدة. So since this is having fibrous roots, that means here we have a monocotyledonous root. Now we have two types of scaly leaves in the bulb. Outer scaly leaves are going to be dry, giving protection, and inner fleshy leaves that are going to be storing food materials. It consists of a shortened, convex, or slightly conical stem, a terminal bud, and numerous scaly leaves with a cluster of fibrous roots at the base. The same function of the terminal bud is going to be applied here. As we can see here, this is the terminal bud. It's going to grow, and it will give the aerial shoot outside the soil. The inner scales of the bulb are usually fleshy, as we said, storing water and food, while the outer ones are dry, giving protection. The last type, tuber. It's a swollen end of a special underground branch. It's a branch, and at the end of the branch is going to be the end of the branch is going to store food material, and it's going to be swelled. So the end of this branch is going to be the tuber. The underground branch arises from the axil of a lower leaf, grows horizontally outwards, and swells up at the apex due to the accumulation of food. هنا البرانش أو هذا الفرع أو هذا الفرع التحت أرضي يتضخم طرفه نسبة لتخزين الغذاء، وتصبح هذا أو يصبح هذا الطرف المتضخم هو عبارة عن التيوبر أو الدرنة. مثال لذلك نبات البطاطس زي ما شايفين. The potato is the example of the tuber. Now this is the plant. Now this is the branch. It's not a root, this is the branch. As you can see here, the end of the branch is going to be swelled, accumulating food, and it's going to be underground. So here, this is the tuber. Now let's have a closer look here. Now as you can see here, we have those structures. These structures are called eyes. It's the axillary bud with the scaly leaf. Now here at the end, in one end, we have the terminal bud or the apical bud is going to give the aerial shoot as usual. Thank you all. With the end